Charity's there, or we're gonna, and it's okay. I mean, I know there's a little, but as far as like,
Oh, EMS.
Hi everyone, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. My name is Chris Driscoll. I'm from Duquesne University School of Law. Thanks for coming. And a little background on my talk is I came to my first Cali conference last summer, and I was looking really to talk more with other IT directors and law school staff about what they were doing in their schools, how they're tackling different issues. And I want this to be kind of more of like a forum, so I'm going to go through some of my slides and ideas and strategies, and hopefully at the end we'll have plenty of time for discussion about, just like you guys were earlier, about different products you may or may not use in your school, problems, advantages, things like that. So we'll talk about Duquesne. So it's located downtown. If you're from Pittsburgh, that's how you would say it. They have their own dialect out there. Downtown Pittsburgh, basically right here. And the big advantage of that is that it's blocks away from all the local courthouses, local, state, and federal, which provides our students a lot of good opportunities. Probably like most of your schools, there's a central university IT department that we have about 10,000 total students, 3.25 law IT staff. So myself, kind of an application support person, and a system admin, and a part-time web designer. We have about 450 full-time law students, about 25 full-time faculty. We have a full-time, part-time evening programs. The only other law school in Pittsburgh is University of Pittsburgh Law School. So for our talk here, we'll kind of assume a couple things, that most law schools, only smaller law schools, have 1 to 5 IT staff. There's not going to be more money coming in or more resources available. If anyone did the tour of Harvard's IT operation, I mean, in half their rack, I saw my entire operating budget for the year. So, and that we partner and rely on the university to provide a lot of IT infrastructure, whether it's telephone, network, wireless, LDAP, all those things. So a lot of these things aren't new in the last 5-10 years, but trying to get them to all talk is relatively new. And how do they're going to keep throwing more things at us, at the same time not giving additional resources or staff. And we got to figure out how to tackle all this. So I'll talk about a couple different things that I use to kind of put it all together. Some background, I've only been at Duquesne for 2 years. Prior to that, I spent 10 years working at Villanova in a more liberal arts area, and it's taken a little while to adapt to the different animal that law schools are compared to other schools in the universities. So basically, you take a rather complicated situation and try to make it as simple as possible. So we didn't have an IT department before I got there. It was under the library. We had a couple people, and the idea was to kind of organize it in a different structure. So the first thing I did was define a goal, and then once you have that, try and categorize all those different services that you need to provide, and then try to align the resources with those goals, and then make sure everyone understands what you're trying to do and why you're trying to do it. So our mission statement is very simple. It's just pretty standard stuff. I would just say if you don't have one, it's probably a good exercise to go ahead and make one. So all those little dots I had a couple slides ago, basically I put them into different buckets. So we talk about support. Those are things that the university is providing, hopefully. The basic stuff, email, LDAP, Identity Management, Active Directory, Banner, if that's your ERP system. And then you go to the different things that you're going to partner with either a vendor or the university IT folks with. Desktop support, for example, our university help desk happens to be in the building right up next to ours. So I didn't want our organization, my IT staff, spend a lot of time working on little things that, frankly, the university IT staff is better equipped to handle. Course management system, most people are hosting Blackboard now, off-site. Network, the most important thing that I think students really want and care about is, how do I get on the wireless network? Everything else falls down from there. AV, for example, we standardized all of our AV systems in the last year, and we intentionally took out press run systems because this could be pretty intimidating to the average person. Even I was intimidated by looking at it a little bit. So we put in Extron, very simple controllers. On, off, select your input, select the volume. It's the same as, we use the analogy of, with our faculty and training them, it's like turning your TV on, setting the channel. So I'm not going to talk about all those, but when we move over, then these are the things that the law IT department needed to focus on. Your laptop exams is probably unique compared to the other schools in your university. SharePoint, desktop project, all these different things that are just really unique to what we're trying to accomplish and meet our goals. So when you have that last column there, basically the first thing to do is, if we're going to provide this, if we need to provide this resource, is there other, do we know about what other things the university IT folks are doing? Because they don't often communicate out what they're doing or have in their pipeline. So ask yourself, does the university IT provide a resource? And they probably don't, so that's why you're doing, that's why you have jobs, right? So then you also have to look at your staff. Do they have, is it part of their job description? Now, their job descriptions are completely evolving every year. We redo them every year because it's a moving target on the different tasks they have to complete. Do they have the skills? Can we get them the training if they don't have the skills? Is it too much? Do they have the time? And frankly, do they have the interest? So once you have those all together, then you can map your priorities. Do those services you need to provide, do they align with the business goals of the school, of the dean? Can you deliver the availability and uptime of those services? And probably more important nowadays, do you outsource that service or do you run it in-house? Another issue too with Crestron, and I asked the Harvard folks, is they had to bring a vendor in to program those things, and they had 50 full-time staff, and it's expensive. So that was one of the reasons why we chose to get rid of those, rather than have to outsource it at additional cost. And then when you're looking to communicate out what you're doing, just like lawyers, that's their job to translate the law. It's important for us as technology folks to translate technology into layman's terms. In all your documentation, on all your things you're doing with students and faculty. As far as technology committees, I'm sure everybody has a technology committee in their school. If you don't, you should definitely create one. Not that everyone needs more committees to be on, but it's a good avenue for discussion, two-way discussion. At the same time, we created an IT advisory group for our students to join. And the idea is that we don't want to make assumptions about what it is they need or want. We want to give them an outlet for input, to give us feedback on what they think is not working, what they see they need in the future, things like that. And then any opportunity you have to get involved in any university IT governance committees and groups, it's always good to have a seat at the table for decisions that the university is going to be making that's going to impact you, obviously. So if you don't have a seat at one of those tables, I think it's good to find a way to get on there. Another thing we do is, I think it's good practice, is to communicate every semester a summary in layman terms to everybody in your community about the upgrades that happened, how it's going to be beneficial to them, other things coming down the pike that they should be on the lookout for. And then, of course, obviously, resources on your website, how to connect the wireless, how to do the basic tasks that should be publicly available to everyone, because the first thing students, when they have a question, is they Google it, and hopefully, your site is giving them the correct information, and it can save you a lot of extra calls and time. All right, so some of the strategies, obviously leverage university resources whenever possible. They have obviously more funds and personnel to make things happen. And it's important to build bridges with them as well. So also to find out what other schools at your, or colleges at your university are doing. Law schools generally tend to have a bigger IT staff than the other schools. And so most of the time you'll find other schools have one person embedded somewhere in their staff they have an IT role. At least at 3 different universities I've worked at, that's been the case. And it's good to make friends with them, understand what their needs are. If there's a collective interest in a new technology that the university is not providing, it'll be easier to make a pitch to get that and and see if it can move forward. And then obviously opportunities like this to understand what other universities are doing. So if the university is not providing that resource that you think they should be providing, and that's, I don't know about you, but that's always a constant battle. We're taking on things that we probably shouldn't provide, and other schools probably need the same resources. They just may not have the voice to do that, is to document it and go on the record for these things. At the same time, the flip side, it's a lot easier as a smaller IT organization to get things done, because you don't have to go through all the red tape, change management. Not that you should ignore all those things, but it's a lot easier to get things done when you don't have to go through tons of committees, make your case to tons of different groups. For example, we were able to get SharePoint up and running in a matter of 3 weeks when the university was talking about doing it for 3 years. Because I had already put it in another institution and already knew what the issues were, how to resolve them, and things like that. So, but you understand it's a bigger issue for the university because they have a lot more, they have to deliver probably a more robust system, whereas we don't have as many users to worry about. This is a big mistake I think a lot of people make is funding maintenance in the capital budget as opposed to your operating budget every year. Things like AV in the classrooms, it shouldn't be something that you just have to wait till it breaks to replace. It should be in there every year. It's going to be easier to manage. I mean, we don't have to worry about the physical infrastructure of the network, but that's something that I've seen people, just deal with as it breaks, and I think that's a mistake. And then the strategic plan. When I walked into Duquesne, they had a 5-year strategic plan. I think that was way too long. There's too many things that are coming out, and we were able to accomplish it all in 1 year. So I think 2 or 3 years is probably pretty good to revisit that on a cycle. And then in terms of support, we took a different strategy. Instead of a lot of hand-holding, which is traditional, I think, in law schools, we chose to empower faculty to feel comfortable, faculty and staff, to feel more comfortable with the software and hardware. And the idea of transferring ownership of using those technologies and not being a crutch. So how do you do this? You do training, obviously. We did a training session, well, we did a whole bank of sessions, but we started down with the very basics. You're having a problem with your computer. What are some things you can do yourself to resolve that issue? it sounds stupid, but restart your computer, but it works 9 out of 10 times and can save them and you a lot of time. So we did all that kind of basic skills. And then standardizing hardware and software, obviously, it makes total sense, but I know a lot of schools also just let people get whatever they want, and I think that's a mistake too. If they have HP, IBM, Dell, all these different models, not standardized, it makes it very hard to support. Yeah.
Is your faculty and staff training, is that mandated by your dean or anything?
Yeah, well, that's the thing, like staff, it's very easy to say, you're coming to this, Faculty is a little more challenging, so I found that if you provide lunch and food, that's always helpful. But mandating is a little more difficult, obviously. But one thing we did do on the AV classroom side was we said, well, we standardize all the equipment. We're going to show you how to use it. We're not going to really help you unless you let us train you.
Do you have a stick, though, for that? Or do you have a carrot?
Well, there's a couple, there's some faculty that they've been doing the same thing for 30 years. They don't want to use the AV equipment. That's fine. They're not going to change. So, but you can't let that hold you back. So if someone never uses AV equipment and they want to show a video, we'll come in and take care of that for them. But generally, the stuff is simple enough to use, and they've been shown how to use it. That's not an issue. There was a little resistance in the beginning because they weren't used to that, but once they understand it and see how easy it is, it only took a month or so to implement that. Again, if your Windows image isn't really vetted very well, you're going to run into problems. So, and if the PC doesn't work, the piece of equipment that your faculty and staff are using all day long, not really much else matters if you have 99.99% uptime on whatever system it is. Another important considerations is, I think, the physical location of your department. We were scattered in 4 different locations in our library. So we made the pitch that we wanted to be where the action was. So we were able to move right into the faculty wing, and we can pretty much be anywhere in the law school within 30 seconds. So I think it's easier to, if someone has a call or email, just go down to their office and work it out rather than spending 4 or 5 minutes trying to figure it out over the phone, or by the time you remote into their computer, you could have already been there, saw the problem back 10 times over. And that also helps with the next thing, which is building relationships. IT folks traditionally I think don't grasp that concept, but it's an easier way to provide better support to your faculty staff if you get to know them on a personal level. They get to build trust in you. Because IT is just unique compared to any other department. We have keys to everyone's offices. There's a level of trust there that doesn't exist in other areas of your school, and that needs to be built over time. So this is kind of a summary of what we are using currently. And a lot of stuff didn't even exist 2 years ago. I'm just putting it up, but I'll put it back up as a discussion point if we want to talk about simplicity or something like that. But it's a little interesting, to see who's providing the primary support for these products and or services, and then where it's being hosted now. That's something that's fairly new in the last 3 or 4 years. Outsourcing of I'll make these slides available too. Having it hosted off-site. We have a new website coming, hopefully soon. If you've seen you probably haven't seen our website, but it's awful. I think we're the only actually law school in the entire country that does not have an independently hosted site or our own custom template in our university CMS. So we're using Drupal for the new site. But anyway, I'll put that slide back up. that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about. So we can open up for discussion about any particular products.
So our university, I'm from the University of Idaho, has kind of got a schizophrenic relationship with the university IT department. Whereas half the time or in the past, they've said that, that's your problem. And now they're running a campaign to sort of incorporate everything, and they're going to now provide everything, which has left a lot of maybe not so great feelings because people are afraid that they're not going to be getting the services that they expect from the IT people that work at their law school.
Mhm.
And they're afraid that we might lose our people. How would you handle something like that?
Well, actually, when I was at Villanova, that happened at their law school. They were kind of assimilated. The existing law school staff, IT staff, are assimilated into the university IT organization, and they still stayed there. They had physical presence. So I don't think the role and responsibilities really changed. It was just who they reported to. That's why all these positions were created, because the law schools wanted, specific support, and they wanted it in a different way and a more of a customer touch. So I don't know. That's tricky.
Do you have to get in line? Not be first.
I don't think so. What they're trying to do right now is trying to guarantee that the people that work with us currently are in positions where they're not going to be able to be drawn back into the main IT department and redistributed to other places on campus. But they really haven't done anything yet. But there's a large fear that once the main university becomes the person who's providing the service, then obviously they're not going to get the level of service that they currently enjoy.
Yeah, I think an SLA would be helpful there and get something in writing, but there's also advantages, I think, on the other end. So your staff that are in your law school now, they don't have access to resources that they would when they're part of the university IT department. So they'll gain that. They'll also be able to hopefully channel information about things you guys need a little bit easier to your university IT directors, and hopefully you can get things done a little bit faster than you could in the past. So it can go both ways. I would be careful though. If there was advantages for my department to join the university IT department, I would consider it. Until that happens though, I won't. I would be careful.
If they made an effort to bring you into there, even though you're not going to get any kind of benefit from it.
Well, if there was benefits, then I would consider
Otherwise
it.
you wouldn't.
Are there any services that you're both touching at the same time? Like in our case, Active Directory is one of the things that's like
You said it's a nightmare?
Well, yeah, because we have certain aspects, although they manage it, we can create policies and so forth, but we can't set an account or something like that. We can't have somebody to our GPO.
We use the university's Active Directory as well, and we have access to OUs and GPOs, things like that. We can't reset a user's. That syncs down from LDAP anyway, so it wouldn't be helpful to reset a user. But there is times when I was like, well, it'd be easier if we just had our own Active Directory. We wouldn't have to deal with all this other stuff. But the flip side, then you're running this additional service, and is it really worth it? Probably not. By the time you got it built, and if you communicated to them what exactly the needs were you needed, it could probably be resolved faster than building your own Active Directory. So, yeah.
More of a semi-technical question. I notice you have the email hosted exchange. Who's it hosted with?
Microsoft.
And have you had any downtime, glitches, service issues?
Yeah. Well, when I got there, they were just migrating from I don't even know what to, I think it was called Outlook Live as an intermediate step to 365. And during both those migrations, it was kind of a nightmare. Some people didn't have email for a week. But since then, it's been fine.
Yeah, well, migration, I can understand, but since then,
Service outages, I mean, that hasn't really been an issue. And, I mean, I personally think it's better than Google. Because I think the students are gonna be more likely to see Outlook when they get out into the workplace. Even though they all have Gmail accounts, and that's probably what they primarily use. So
you're providing an exchange account for each of the students in addition to faculty and staff?
everyone's hosted. I know some people like to have the model where it's on site for faculty and staff, but we don't have that.
it's free.
It's free, yes.
What?
I'm sorry.
Free to you, the school?
Exchange?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, any .edu gets a free unlimited exchange account from Microsoft, unlimited users.
And you also get Office, I believe, an Office subscription.
And they take your first floor.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've lost two already to that. What's the exact name?
another, I'm sorry if I'm getting
No,
into these a
go
little
ahead.
bit.
Yeah.
On the exchange accounts, what's the storage quota per user? Would you happen to know?
I think it's like 9 gigs or something. Last time I checked, it's
like 50.
Yeah, we're getting 50.
Is it?
Yeah.
okay.
With the OneDrive.
Yeah, I haven't looked
We
at.
have 50 with the OneDrive at 1 terabyte per.
Business OneDrive?
Yes.
Free?
Yeah, there's no reason to host
Free,
email.
Yeah, free.
Yeah.
The only reason I ask is because we're not doing it at my law school.
So what about the alumni? Do they get to keep that address when they graduate?
It's a good question. I don't know how it's working yet. I mean, I kind of almost sometimes wish we were hosting, like we had our own email, because I'd rather have the .law. And our email addresses are our usernames at uq.edu, and sometimes you can't really, this first name last name at law.uq. That would be a much more professional looking. And it'd be easier to do like, part of the problem with hosted exchanges that you have like generic accounts. They're a little bit harder to manage. You have to log in a different location. That's one thing I don't like about it. It'd be easier if you hosted your own to work with those. But that's really only probably like 20 accounts. How about, is anyone using Simplicity, Community?
We use it at our law school, but career services, I think,
Yeah,
is it?
yeah I think almost.
We don't really give much support, they handle it all themselves, but we use,
For just career services.
I believe so.
With Ferals, do you allow it to print from mobile devices as well?
We just put it in maybe 6 months ago, and yeah, we didn't purchase the module that lets you print from your mobile device.
We charge.
Well, Duquesne didn't have any quota at the university till like a year ago, and so the quota now is 3,000 pages per year. So it's pretty generous compared to other schools, but we're not charging basically. If someone needs more than 3,000, our policy now is tell us why and we'll increase it.
Do you charge a technology fee?
That's another great question. I made a proposal for a technology fee this past year because our budget's not getting increased, or there's no prospects of that happening. And actually, I went into all the classes and made a 5-minute pitch and handed out a survey, and actually 2/3 were supportive of the idea, and it wasn't a big technology fee. It was pretty much the average of all the research I did was $250 a year. That's what I was proposing. But the university didn't think it was a great time to implement a new fee. But yeah, I mean, I had a whole list of things that we were going to be able to provide with the technology fee. I think it'll be easier to do that if the university has a technology fee. but do most schools have a technology fee? Yeah,
5%.
5% tuition. That would make life easy. How about virtualization? Is anybody doing anything with desktop virtualization?
Yeah.
You are? Like the staff computers or?
I don't actually know anyone who's actually using it, but the General University, they have virtualized desktops available, and I really don't know if it's getting much use.
We use it for clinics.
Yeah.
And a couple experiments as far as a few staff are experimenting, with it. But the problem is always the speed. Well, no, that's not always the problem. The problem is, why can't I download iTunes to this and listen to my music? It's like, no, this is why we put you on a virtual machine, because you killed your last one doing random things. So, so far so good. Like the ones who we maybe maliciously, no, just kidding. We put someone on a virtual machine, didn't tell them that they were on a virtual machine, and they didn't realize that it wasn't actually, it was just a thin client thing. They were happy, and so they've kind of been our spokesperson of it's not as bad as people think it is.
Yeah.
It has yet to really catch on.
Yeah, we had a kind of bad experiment with it too. So we were in a situation where we needed to buy, we had 80 computers in our labs and library that needed to be replaced. So I was like, well, it's a good time to implement desktop virtualization. So we bought all WISE terminals. We bought Windows embedded ones so we could easily turn them into computers, which we've done actually a couple weeks ago, because just for the little things that they use the computers for them to log into a virtual machine just seemed like a lot of work and kind of unnecessary. But we do plan to use it for kind of like a virtual lab for specific software in the future. That way students walk with their own laptop, just remoting the machine. Doesn't matter what they have, Mac, which we're pretty much 50% Mac on the student side. It works great for that.
Yeah, we've been, our relationship with the main campus is a little schizophrenic as well, but we have programs that will only work on specific operatings that are campus issued, that are specific to operating system, the type of Java version that you have installed. And we suggested to the main campus, why don't you give us some virtual desktops so that the people who need to log in to your system, you control the version of Java that's on there and everything. And for some reason that we're not sure, we've kind of advanced past the main campus as far as utilizing virtual machines. So we're still waiting, kind of with them or on them on that. And that's been a really interesting experience for our campus, in that we thought we were behind, found out we're not, and now kind of helping main campus catch up with the technology.
Yeah.
So.
That raises another good point too. I'm pretty sure that we're ahead of the university, which didn't really take that much, but it also enables them to say, look, they're doing this, we should be able to do this too, and hopefully they can ramp up their services, especially when other schools see what you have and they start wanting that. That's where it can have a positive effect. Not that you're trying to be better than them or anything, you're trying to do your job. So.
How do you do with the digital signage? Do you design, or you just let them provide a license to do what they want?
Yeah, so we went bright signs, like there's a little appliance hooks into your network and then the display, and it's a web interface. So we can design a template. It's fairly easy, and we only give access to certain staff members to create their own JPEGs. You can do other things with it too. It's pretty powerful, but we're just using the basic stuff.
But you don't want it. They have.
Well, I've created standards. I'm like, it has to be this. You can't put all this information on digital sign. That's useless. So I'll take them down if they don't meet standards. And we've done training and education about what standards are, what's good digital signage. Because if it's all text, it's pretty much pointless and a waste of time. And it's one of those things like, is it really used that well? Because I question it all the time. Like, it's nice. It's better than putting posters up, but the students actually look at it. I don't know.
But you yourself don't do the design and posting. You just.
No. Most of our staff, I mean, are not IT staff, but like people in student orgs, they're creating these, and they do a decent job. How about video conferencing? Is anyone doing anything with that? Yeah. We've found that instead of investing in hardware, just Cisco WebEx, it's pretty cheap and subscription based, pretty much like most things are moving. It would be easy to switch to something else if something else came better. But it works great. That's what we're using for, we're running our first synchronous online class right now. That's what we're using.
Do you have access to Blackboard Collaborate?
Yeah, but it's not, I don't know if I'm on the record, but it hasn't worked that great compared to this.
Yeah, no, Cisco's back end is far more robust than the Collaborate equipment is. Yeah, we saw a lot of the same issues. I mean, it's things you expect or don't expect to see dropped when you're familiar with the Cisco, the WebEx client, that you start to see dropped in the Collaborate client. And then redeploying the Collaborate videos is it really takes a long time to use the online production utility. So it's good for smallers. It is what we've done.
Yeah.
Very small, six usage.
Along the same lines, I mean, I'm sure you guys all have the same problem too, where we have so many tools. As law schools, we have Twin. LexisNexis basically has repackaged Blackboard, and all your different faculty have their preferences, and it makes it a little confusing for a student as to what they're supposed to be going to access course material. We don't have a solution for that yet. I mean, getting everyone to agree on one platform is not going to be easy.
So if you record a class or capture a class, you don't you don't automatically upload the link to whatever course management they're using. You give them the link and they do wherever they want.
Well, we're not actually capturing, for the synchronous class we're running right now, it's clearly online, and that's, Cisco WebEx actually you hit record and it just records the session, but we're not actually capturing any classroom material yet. We're renovating some rooms this summer that's going to have that built in, but there's been basically no demand from our faculty to do that. We have it in our clinics so the students can record themselves practicing, but we're not really doing. I mean, it's pretty expensive to put in all the cameras and everything. So until there's a demand, we don't plan to expand it much beyond courtroom and one classroom. That'll change over time, but
I have a question for everyone. As far as video conferencing, has anyone used BlueJeans? Like implemented it?
We've been testing it.
I like it.
We haven't really tested a lot. We're using, right now I'm struggling to find the name of the product. We're testing a competing product, but for whatever
Is it
reason.
the Logitech one?
No.
Okay.
But right now, I'm digging through my files to find out the name of the other one we're using right now. But we've been field testing a couple or three different ones, and eventually someone will decide at our university which one we're gonna use. It's not just at the law school, it's,
Campus-wide.
campus-wide.
Because we use WebEx, we use Skype for ad hoc type meetings, but we use
Same.
Polycom for IP based. A lot of the courts still require you to do IP to IP connection. So when students have like interviews, whether it's for jobs or clerkships or anything, we're required to still have that service. And BlueJeans says they can make all systems talk to each other, and we're not quite quite sure yet if that's the case. So I was wondering if anyone's had experience.
Yeah, we use Group Presence software as a desktop application, and all they need is a webcam, and they can use it on their own. They download whatever they want.
For which one?
Real Presence.
Will Presence?
Yeah, Real Presence.
Interesting.
It's a desktop app.
So even though, so they're on a desktop and
Yeah,
they need to reach an IP-based
That's
system?
what they take care of, it, we
Okay.
don't even have to be.
Can you do that with the M300 client, Polycom M300? I don't know if that's, because it's Polycom's own client, I don't know
Okay.
if that also has it in there, but it's called M300, it's, I think it's dirt cheap.
Alright.
Yeah, we have a solution from, I forget who they are, from Lifesize called ClearSeat,
For that, yeah.
which is great because it's iPad or iPhone video conferencing to any standards-based Polycom or Lifesize or Camber or whatever. It was like $8,000, but it was like a one-time fee and it was a little bit per year. But then you can have a bunch of licenses, up to 300 people can log in. It's really good. So.
What's that system called?
It's called ClearSeat, like sea,
ClearSeat?
like the ocean. It'll connect to individual other ClearSeat people like Skype, and you can dial in right to any any IP based.
It's like a bridge, kind of.
Yeah, well, it doesn't. So it's not perfect. What they really want you to buy is ClearSeat, and then their bridge product, so you can group like 10 people into one ClearSeat at a time, whatever. But we have a lot of faculty who will. Need to dial into a room. There's 10 people in a room with a Polycom, and then there's that one person that couldn't make it that day. They can, from their phone or their iPad or their house or whatever, kind of ClearSeat right into the room and be a part of the meeting without, being too disruptive. So it's great for IP into Polycom or whatever. And we use it the same thing with the interviews for course and stuff.
I just remember the product we use. The one we're testing now heavily is called Fuse, F-U-Z-E.
Yeah,
Anyone heard of it?
we've used that before too. There's a free version, I think for 1-to-1 or
Yeah,
maybe 4 people. Up to
and you
4
can
people.
have multiple people on one conference. It seems pretty good. In our area, a lot of the courts and legal firms, they use Skype heavily. And it just bugs the hell out of us because there's always
The hell out of everybody.
something unstable about it.
Yeah.
Did they recently allow more than one user to connect simultaneously? This was something that was new.
Well, for Skype,
Yeah,
I think you have to pay for it.
No, up to 10 now.
yeah,
Free?
Yeah, and desktop sharing.
right.
But this is Skype.
Joe is good.
Yeah, but they're basically turning it into like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll hang out to stuff.
All right, this is great because this is pretty much the kind of conversations that I think are helpful for people in our position. So, unless anyone has anything else, thanks for coming.
Okay, thank you.
So far, the company goes for similar
a pain in the butt.
Well, it's great. No, our event staff loves it, so it's
Where does it start?
for us, the problem is we take data out of the event and do stuff. So we're tying into our recording system. Cameras in every room. We want to right? So if we just use it as a database of where stuff is, it's not that bad. If I want to say, hey, tell me where it's working, you have to show me what I was told to buy is that any report that you can get out of it.
Yeah,
So for me, that was like, wow, because then I can do anything I want to. We were really just hitting we paid EMS for the special API that we can write to build reservations. We have a small version
Yeah, I'm not sure how it is on their hosting, but we hosted ourselves, and yes, we have been utilizing the API very heavily because they basically got rid of certain things that our campus is way too used to, and faculty would have they couldn't see certain views on their calendar and whatnot, so
And we have it for digital signage, so we can pull the data right from EOS. Time and everything.
yeah, that makes sense.
So we call this book view because back 10 years ago we had a book that was sitting in the dean's office or whatever to make a reservation. So the faculty flipped out when they saw virtual EMS. There's no way we're going to do this.
Never.
So we built just a normal kind of book replica of just all the rooms, and then they can just hit a little
Okay. Yeah, no worries. That's awesome.
And it's all through the API, so we were toying with the ability to
Yes, that is exactly what the college neck got rid of for us. So we're like,
right,
no.
and this is all they want, right? They want to see, I need this room right here, hit
Exactly.
the plus sign, tell us when, and then this is just the law right now, so it's tied into our courses, so.
Oh, that's funny.
Is it for a course, what courses it's for,
Yeah.
and then that's it, and then it just kind of happens. But
Yeah.
on the back end, it's putting a reservation in EMS, it's booking the room, it's the time, it's doing all that. The idea of actually just kind of writing into the Microsoft database for EMS, but it's about, I don't know, 500 tables, and it's very, very complicated, and it wasn't, it's like, you know what, have an API, wait for the API to work, that's the way to go, it's just,
Oh,
master
God.
calendar is a disaster. So
Yeah,
that's,
okay.
never, I mean, there's so many other calendaring, marketing kind of
Pretty,
programs out there.
We're
and
probably adopting localists.
People say, right, so people say all the time, like, oh, your calendar, if you could just link it to your room reservation system. But they're just two totally different experiences. So just EMS tries to like throw stuff in there and it's not trying to
Oh, man. All right, we're getting pretty heavily vested at 25 live. Well, it was our 25 live, and then that's scheduled 25 for the rescheduling. And we're switching. We also have a $75 million mural.
Yes, it is.
Banner.
It has to be.
Right, but when you're done, you'll be much
Exactly.
happier, so it's all good.
Someday. Who do you guys have? 75 million.
Oh, we have a COBOL mainframe. I mean, I think it literally is 70 years old.
Oh my god. Yeah.
Very,
Oh my goodness, that's hilarious. Okay, we're not
Our
quite
staff
that
is
bad.
still, log into the TWS terminal, and type in commands, and
I get concerned with that.
Wow.
they keep saying, oh, it'll be $25 million, $35 million. It's like, to get a new ERP, it'll be $75 million.
And then
But
if they don't do it,
at some point, you have to just
absolutely
put
their
it
part.
That's my explanation to the server.
That works. I'm not saying that these guys don't want to do it, but they're saying that they don't work with that. And then they'll come down, make a
Wow.
fuss,
So you
and then
can't
they'll.
put in, if somebody
And
has
that's
only that they got 18 or 180, and everyone at the university just understands that 180 is 800. So it's like,
Yeah.
what we have, we got some.
That's
This
crazy.
doesn't get any better.
Yeah. Aw.
I envy you. We haven't even yet begun the process. So our new, we just got a president last year, and he came from had an ERP, and he's very keen on kind of optimization. Thank God for him, because
Good call.
otherwise, we would not get it.
Stroll. Yeah, you're not supposed to run. Stroll.
We're in the center actually.
I don't have any announcements on TSA, which I already almost missed my flight because I thought I was terrorist. I apparently had express residential when I went to scan, and then they told me that certain lotions and blisters. So I was a low moisturized terrorist, I got like the private room and everything.
Did you really? And the virus.
I got the private room, yes. But they said I had amazing packing skills, so I think that made up for all, you know.
Yeah, so
It wasn't really a human, we just all stood around and talked.
And that's what, sometimes when you notice that people actually,
We're like,
very competent.
let's get hands together.
Now it's
No, I actually got your They're less. So don't put lotion on, it's a story. I know.
Good tip.
Done. Exactly, so we don't do it, forget it, dry skin is worth it.
Did you do a cross trust?
Not yet, because
They're not working.
So you know the score now?
Yeah.
Do you wanna know?
Some of these are 20 administrators. If they did, how would they share?
How do you know what they're using it?
It's the stuff you go to the doctor's office.
Also, you look it up first before you create it.
You gotta look.
But you have to create your own AD.
Yeah, it is. Batch
Right.
created. It's actually batch created, creating answers, so it's not huge. But the biggest problem is because we create our AD account after the account has been created, so there's always a process. We have to force the password reset.
Okay.
So at the beginning of orientation, we force every student to reset the passwords with synchronize.
So there must be some sort of time frame where there's a delay,
Yeah,
where the old password is
Like-
still active before the sync.
No, it's
If
only.
they change it on the main system,
There's
and you
a-
have it
it's a
synced.
5-second quick
I
turn,
see.
so by
I
the
thought you
time you
get
log
some sort of
in,
list.
no, it's actually fairly quick.
Good,
So by
okay.
the time you log into all these systems, your password's already changed, and then you do have to reconfigure it, because we don't have our students on the domain. So they have to reconfigure every student as like uses and out, using the password. But they like that, they haven't
That
fussed
would,
about it.
yeah, that would solve some of my problems.
We
because-
just don't, we used to join people to the domain, but now we don't. We do force them to have an antivirus, although it's just a manual force, it's not really a check on the network.
So your machines are not in the main?
Not those student ones,
Oh,
only
that's
faculty
on
ones.
the back.
So it's really mandated by our IT security office.
Yeah, mine too, we can't have machines.
I need to update and patch and stuff.
You don't, we don't update the student, but you can put a NAC agent and check it so they connect to network whether they're patched and secure. You don't have
Do
to
the
do
posture
it.
checking.
Yeah. You check that just before they connect, you run this out of.
Oh, you're talking about their own personal?
Yeah.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
the
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, okay, when you say students.
Yeah, that's what I thought, students like lab.
Oh,
Yeah.
those are all
Clinic.
Those are all
labs,
independent,
public
yeah.
computers,
Yeah, just the student ones, they're
just the
personal.
student
That's
personal
what-
ones,
that was
yeah.
the-
But we do provide them antivirus,
Yeah.
when they come to orientation, just to make sure they have some form of virus scan.
Yeah.
Our main campus are actually joining things to domain.
No? Oh, wow. Yeah, one thing that I would have done differently than I do law is we are part of the central domain, so it's like thousands of machines and users and stuff, and I don't know what tech architect was thinking about this, but if you have a chance, I think you should ask them to create a subdomain, so it should be law dot whatever, Kent.com,
Well, we
.edu.
have, yeah, so,
So that you have your own,
Yeah.
so just like you have right now your own domain, if they create your subdomain, it would be, the child of the, and you
Right.
have full rights over
Right.
yours,
yeah, so
but then
that's,
you don't have to deal with upgrading users and stuff, so that would be, I would have done that for the NIU if I
so
had a
that's what
choice.
we're talking about right now, is subdomain, so
Yes.
that we can manage some of our services ourselves, but the user accounts, we don't want the main campus to manage,
Exactly.
because there's identity manager that pushes out the changes.
Mhm.
So we really don't have to reset a user or anything, that need never comes up, but we do have access to all that stuff
Yeah, yeah,
through the LDAP portal.
Yeah.
To, disable an account,
Mhm.
reset an account.
Okay.
Yeah, we do, I mean, I think we make business case that if you can't get to it, someone in our help desk has to get to it,
Mhm.
since we're two separate campuses.
Mhm.
It's really tricky now, if the dean calls and his password isn't working, well, someone needs to fix it.
Yeah, you can't wait 4
You
hours for
can't
someone
wait
to
4
still
hours,
respond to
right.
it, yeah, exactly.
And we understand that they service a lot of other students, so it's hard, we have 1,000 students and 250 faculty and staff, so it's really tricky to service all these people with just 3 people at the main campus.
Yeah.
So that way I think it's a lot of trust that, you then build that and you get access and you don't do what you're not supposed to do and treat the systems with, respect so that you're not damaging or
Right.
making extra work for them.
Do
And
you-
then that's always the problem, it's like, hey, if you touch it and you don't know what you're doing, you're gonna break it, which means I have to now spend 8 or 6 hours fixing it.
Yeah.
Do you have evening program? And so
We
you
have
do
an
after-
evening-
So,
yeah.
so how do you deal with those type of support after hours?
So we have, during our regular semester, our support goes until 8 p.m. To accommodate the evening students. In summer, we drop down to 8 to 6, and 8 to 5 on a Friday. But during the normal spring, fall semester, it's
So any
Wow.
password or whatever issue afterwards,
So
you wait
after-
the next day or
No,
email?
actually, with the passwords, it goes to the portal, so you actually have the ability to reset your password your own by yourself by, answering your security questions.
Okay.
Now, if you do stumble, then yes, you do have to wait, but there's a 24/7 main campus line
Oh, that
allows
they
you.
can call.
Yeah,
To
they
reset
can-
it, yeah.
Yeah, because it's a
I
main
see.
campus
Let's see.
password thing, so they can call there and reset
Let's
it.
see.
Sometimes we do have that, because the passwords don't push to RAD and the services that uses our AD account.
That's right.
That's where we get the problem, it's like, oh, the password, and then students don't understand why the password is
And
not.
I changed it and I can't get into that system and then.
So, because we use RAD
Right.
to authenticate to certain services versus main campus, that's why I want it all consolidated, because it's so much easier.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about these passwords not synchronizing or some other issue not happening. It's a headache,
Do you
you know?
use exams?
Yeah, we do, yeah.
I had to deal with password issue with them, where I wanted them to use our university has to authenticate because the TSO did not want us to have the students log in to exams off-site. They don't have that. They didn't have a problem. How do you deal with that? You create the account exams
Manually.
It's just
Yeah.
different than
Yeah.
so that's a different password. So I'm trying to.
But were you out
There
there?
is an LDAP integration
Yeah, the
that's
new-
possible in the SAML integration.
For exams off?
Yeah,
Yeah.
were
But
you at
it's
the
new.
exam
No, I didn't go. I was talking to Brian though earlier about it.
There is an
'Cause
LDAP
they-
that's established, the SAML is new.
Okay.
So
because
you
the-
could actually, which is something I'm gonna look at, so it alleviates.
Yeah,
Yeah.
most students come in and says, I tried my
No, I
know.
No, that's a different
That's
account.
right.
The
one you used
And
to
then
register in the
here's your
beginning,
ID,
you know.
and this is your password.
Last exam, which is
so-
like usually a whole semester goes away. They don't remember.
Yeah.
And that's the issue.
But
So they
we've
can
tried
manage
it,
that.
I mean, I think what we've done is we're keeping the same username right now for ExamSoft, so we pull
Well,
all
yeah.
that information and upload it into ExamSoft, it's just the password
Right.
is different.
Yeah, I do the same thing.
So-
Actually, we use their email address. It's the same.
Yeah, we just use the
The user.
username portion of the email address, so you give that and
So
then they have the
used to it.
history.
That makes it more complicated because they're like it's the same username. They don't know.
Right.
I tried my best, it's like, no, it's different.
That's right.
But we actually send a big communication out
Oh,
3
yeah.
times for the exam, so there's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
a communication from the standard canned messages we
Yeah.
send out every semester, this is your username, this is your
But I
password.
bet you still have to log on to exams off and
Yeah.
look up somebody's account. And then,
No, actually, we don't have that.
Really?
We haven't had that from the office,
Yeah.
they don't give us that grief, they actually read that message
Mhm.
Oh,
during
really?
exams, and we send it
Oh,
like
that's-
3 times, and we bombard them right before exams as well, so they are looking, it's interesting that these students do read
Pay
those
attention.
messages, cause
That's good.
when we go into.
I have that problem. I mean, because just the way ExamSoft is designed, where some area uses the student ID number, which is the number versus the username, and other time there's the PIN number, and then there's yet an exam password, which is the one the proctor gives them, which is different than the software password.
Yeah,
And to
password
me,
password
it's
is different.
right than the proctor's
Yeah.
password for today's exam, and it's that always creates confusion. And we have to raise it, and then creates confusion.
We actually created a video tutorial for like the process that
Right.
students have to go through, so that
Yeah.
before the exam, they can
No, we
actually
do the
watch
same
it.
thing, but you know, exam tutors and they're sitting there, okay, what do I do now?
you know, and it's still, well, actually, last semester I took a law class, and you know, I went through the class, everything was fine, believe it or not, when the final exam came by, I did not know what's going on, I was like, I need help. And they're like, I was like, I don't know, it's asking me for this, like, password to this account, and then I was like, I don't have this number.
That's right.
And they're like, see how we feel, I was like, you know what, the whole different appreciation, because you're right.